you don't come out of the womb understanding nutrition. Like, you need to learn it.
It's going to require a substantial amount of time to understand and get good at.
And that skill is something that sticks with you for life.
Why would you not want to know what you're putting in your body? The vessel that literally takes you through your whole life is your body. A deficit is not a phase you live in forever.
It's just a tool.
You are going to be hungry and it will be annoying.
There's no good or bad food. You can achieve a deficit eating chocolate.
Welcome back to the Oi Let's Talk podcast. I'm Kate.
And I'm Gemma, a space for no BS conversations for the women who want more.
And today we are coming in hot with episode 3 of the nutrition series. And we are going to be breaking down calorie and macro tracking. What is a surplus? What is a calorie deficit? What we can expect in these two phases, and pretty much give you guys the blueprint if you are someone who wants to track calories and macros. Now, if that is not you, guess what? Click off the podcast and we move on. But I know that there is a lot of people who want to learn how to track calories and macros and simply want to get more educated, which is the point of this whole nutrition series, around how calorie dense foods are, what they're exactly eating, and making sure that they're having a good macro and micro split. So let's break it down.
Let's do it.
Let's do, what is a calorie surplus? And then what is a calorie deficit?
You asking me?
I'm asking, well, there's no one else in this studio.
100%. Well, surplus is eating more food than what we need to sustain our current body weight. You can work it out by using a macro calculator. If you're working with a coach, they'll be able to work that out for you. But it's based on your height, your weight, and your activity level. And that will vary very much depending on the individual as well. So it's something that you kind of would set and then see how your body's responding, and then probably also update according to that as well.
Love that. So we've got a calorie surplus. Then we have a maintenance phase. So maintenance is essentially where you are going to maintain your current body composition, your current body weight, your current physique. And that is usually where I would say we want to be spending majority of our time. Majority of the year, we're going to be sitting at maintenance. That is where the magic happens. You have enough energy to fuel your performance. You're not feeling like you're kind of force feeding yourself, having to eat lots of food like you would in a calorie surplus. And you're also not eating enough food like you would in a calorie deficit. So again, like Gemma said, if you're working with a coach, they would help you figure out your maintenance. If not, you can use a TDEE calculator. The one that I would recommend is tdee.net, which we can pop in the show notes below. That will help you figure out your base level maintenance. But again, you'll have to kind of figure it out on your own. So you would eat at that maintenance phase. You would see if you're either dropping weight or increasing weight, and then you would adjust accordingly. Now let's move into what a calorie deficit is.
Calorie deficit can be quite aggressive or it can be moderate. We're pretty big on more of a moderate approach for most people because, one, you don't have to be on super low calories, but again, different approaches suit different people. And it's just going to be the thing that drives the fat loss results and drives the weight loss in general. There's a few different things that you can do to lose weight while also maintaining as much muscle as possible in a deficit. And that's going to be eating enough protein. How much protein should I be eating, Kate Morris, nutritionist?
Ideally, well, it depends on your body weight. So ideally, the main thing that I would say is you want to be eating at least 20 to 30 grams of protein per serving. So if you're having a high protein meal and it's 8 grams of protein, or like a protein bar that's 8 grams of protein, it's not really high protein. Like, yes, there's protein in it, but it's not a high protein meal. When I think about like general rules of thumb, again, it's based on your body weight, your height, but also like your training history and kind of how much muscle mass you already have as well. But usually we want to be sitting between, I would say, 110 to 130-ish grams of protein per day.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly. And there is a recommendation usually somewhere between 1.7 to 2.2 or 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of your body weight as a general guide. Again, if you use a calculator or a coach, they'll work that out for you. But that generally usually equates to somewhere between 100 to 140 grams of protein. Me in general, I usually eat 120 to 130. Same with you.
I think I'm about, 130, 135. But also again, guys, we need to remember if you've come from a place of not eating a lot of protein, let's say you've averaged 50 grams of protein a day, which a lot of women do not eat enough protein. It's like, would we use that calculation of 1.7 to 2.5 grams? Fuck no, because then you're going from literally 50 grams to 130 grams. You are going to really struggle, one, with actually getting that amount of food in, because protein is the thing that keeps you fuller for longer. But also, two, you might notice some bowel interruptions as well. A lot of people notice if they hike up their protein really quickly, they get constipated or they get really bloated and really uncomfortable. So always paying attention to, if you're someone who hasn't eaten a lot of protein, don't just go from 50 grams of protein to 130. That's a little bit ridiculous. What I would be doing is going from 50 grams to maybe 70 grams to then up to 100 and just slowly increase over a series of weeks until you hit that desired protein goal based on your current body weight.
Yeah, and I think fiber is such a big one as well. Like when you're focused on protein, it's like, yes, but also eat fiber so you can digest things and you have regular bowel movements. And yeah, it's really important. So we've kind of covered the different phases, surplus, maintenance, or deficit. The other thing I wanted to say, because people have opinions around macro tracking in general, but I just want to quickly say that it's just a tool. Like we think about it as like, you don't come out of the womb understanding nutrition. Like you need to learn it, right? And I think that having a period of time where you get a better understanding of what's actually in your food, and if you even go for a period of time of looking at what you're currently eating and then having a better understanding of why you're gaining or losing weight. Like it's not always through the lens of being in a deficit.
Yeah.
It increases your literacy of nutrition. It increases how much you actually understand. And that skill is something that sticks with you for life.
Absolutely.
And that's why we don't track year round, because we've done it for long enough that we understand, okay, cool. If I eat these types of meals, that's going to be hitting the goals that we just spoke about. And it's going to help us sustain our weight and make us feel really good.
And that's exactly it. Tracking calories and macros is a skill. It's going to require a substantial amount of time to understand and get good at. But also, it's a tool that we can put in our toolbox and use it when we're working towards a particular goal. So like Gem said, we don't spend the majority of the year tracking calories. I only ever track my calories and macros when I am locked into a particular goal with a specific time frame that I'm focusing on. Now, you guys would know, if you're new here and you don't know, we're currently doing a dieting phase for the next 11 weeks before we go to Bali. And that is going to require us to track calories and macros. Well, for me anyways, I'm tracking all my calories, all my macros, because I know I've got an 11-week time crunch that I've set myself that I want to uphold and achieve those goals. And the easiest, quickest way for me to do that is to manage what I'm putting in my mouth, period. And when I think about the whole calorie and macro tracking is toxic and blah, 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 at the end of the day, if you're the person that has the restrictive mindset around food, calorie and macro tracking is not for you. Discernment, you're an adult, you don't need to do it. But if you're the person that doesn't understand nutrition, wants to get educated, wants to be empowered around food, wants to understand how much micro and macronutrients they're eating, then yeah, it's probably in your best interest to actually get educated around nutrition. When I think about it from a health perspective, it's like, why would you not want to know what you're putting in your body? The vessel that literally takes you through your whole life is your body. Your health is very, very important. And, everyone has a lot of problems until they only have one problem with when it is their health. And then all of a sudden they want to learn and get educated. It's like, why don't we do that to prevent things from happening? So I'm a very big fan of tracking calories and macros. I also believe if you have any kind of physique goal, muscle building goal, weight loss goal, or just overall health goal, you need to understand nutrition. And unfortunately, calories and macros are the things that make up nutrition. So you got to learn it.
Yeah, and I also think rather than thinking that macro tracking or calories and understanding that's the bad thing, or, the negative thing, I think that it's more so how you view nutrition. Like the thing that I think is actually cool about learning more about what's in our food is it really helps reinstate or reaffirm the fact that there's no good or bad food.
It's neutral. It becomes more neutral.
Yeah, but also food is either more or less nutrient dense. And what you can also understand is you can achieve a deficit via eating some chocolate, and you can also achieve a deficit eating carbs. And it's like there you kind of start to understand, oh, that wasn't actually the issue. And those diet culture / things that have been around forever around good and bad food becomes irrelevant, because then you understand that it's not about that. It's about how much fiber, protein, nutrients, carbs, and fat are in food. I think from that point of view, it actually really helps get rid of the bullshit noise and actually take it down from a science level. That's Literally. What's in our food, and that makes it a lot more easy to kind of calculate, understand what we need to do, especially when it comes to performance, because if you're someone that has training goals as well, like we can use this information to understand how to actually perform better, which is really cool.
Agree 100%. And yeah, I think just going back to like a deficit phase, because I don't think we mentioned this and I just popped into my mind. Sorry, I'm just looping back. But going back to the deficit phase, it's like, okay, could we look at when we're in a maintenance, how much deficit should we be doing? I know you mentioned before, we've got either the conservative or we have more of an aggressive approach. My basic rule of thumb is you've got your maintenance phase, 10 to 20% below that is going to be an appropriate deficit to start. And then we always kind of continue along and then we adjust as needed. If we are the person who goes from having a maintenance into a really aggressive deficit, what I tend to notice is it's a lot harder to stick to. The food noise is a lot louder. You're a lot more hungry. You're a lot more food focused versus when you can kind of just chip away slowly at a couple of 100 calories here and there. It's a lot easier to manage and it's a lot easier to maintain that particular dieting phase. Now, the last thing that I kind of want to mention just quickly is a deficit is not a phase you live in forever, meaning you are going to be hungry. It is going to be hard. It is going to be meticulous and it will be annoying because it is a deficit, meaning that you're not deficiting all year round. It's for a period of time. And I think there's a lot of like discourse on the internet about this because people say that calorie and macro tracking and deficits are restrictive. It's like, yeah, a deficit is restrictive because you are restricting the amount of food you eat to get to a negative energy state, which is where fat loss occurs. And the other thing that we need to think about with that is on the other side of the deficit, aka the food reduction, we also need to be increasing our output with movement, training, or any intentional cardio outside of that to actually get our body in that negative energy state. So we need to consume less and move more. And I think a lot of people, when they go into a deficit, just look at, oh, well, I'll just cut calories, cut calories, cut calories. It's like, well, could you just add an extra 2,000 steps? Could you do a run? Could you do a incline treadmill walk? Could you get on the assault bike? Could you do a Stairmaster? Something like that where we're bumping up the level of output that we're doing on the other side instead of just going, well, I'm just going to cut food all of the time. Because I prefer to eat more food and just increase my output a little bit and still get the fat loss results that I want.
Yeah, I have just a random thought that popped into my head around like expectations around what it is that you want to achieve and also what it takes to get there. Because sometimes, like, say if you have this physique goal and you're like, oh, I'd really like to look like insert the photo of the professional athlete, let's just say, it's really important to actually understand like what that person has to do to sustain that physique is probably not something you want to do. And it's actually good to have that realization so you understand that those people probably need to track their food year round. They probably need to put a certain amount of time and mental energy into their training because maybe it's their sport. So I really feel like sometimes we, look at that and we're like, oh, I really want that. But it's like, it's actually good to identify, actually, I don't want it enough to miss out on my social life. And I don't want it enough to have to think about food so much. And that's also okay. But just a note and a caveat, because I see people a lot say, oh my God, she's amazing or whatever she's done. I was like, I don't think you want to do what she does to maintain that.
No, and that's also, that's such a good point, dude. I'm so happy that you brought that up because it is true. Like when you look at these people who have 8-packs online or they're competing in high rocks and they're lean and ripped or they're a bodybuilder, it's like, you don't understand what goes on behind the scenes to achieve that physique and then maintain that physique. It is a lot. And at the end of the day, if that's your goal and that's what you want to do, fucking go hard. I fully respect that because it takes a lot of work and it's a lot of work ethic and it's really hard to compete at those elite levels. But if you're just like a Gen Pop girly who just wants to get a little bit leaner, it's like maybe we don't need to be going that full extreme, but also recognizing that, okay, if I do want that, I'm going to have to sacrifice the shit that I'm doing at the moment. Because even for me, like going into this deficit now, I have a goal to lose 5-ish kilos. Don't really care about the scale weight, but 5-ish kilos over the next 11 weeks. But I'm not going to be dropping my calories to 1,200 calories, doing 25,000 steps a day, getting on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes every single day because it's just ridiculous. I want to lose 5 kilos, dude. It's not that crazy hard. All I need to do is just be mindful of my food, eat a little bit lower than my maintenance, which is still quite a lot of food, and just hit my steps more. That's really it. And I know that I will get really great results in that and I'll feel really good. But it's about managing those expectations because a lot of people will look at people who have these crazy physiques and expect that they're going to get there by cutting corners, not tracking their food, not understanding calories and macros. but you're not going to get that physique. Also, do you even want it?
No, I've got 2 points. One is make sure as well when you're looking at people that look a particular way. Let's just say you've stumbled across someone who's on the day after their bodybuilding show and they're like looking really shredded. I guarantee you that person feels shit. They have no energy. They can't concentrate and they probably don't have a menstrual cycle. So just make sure you're not glorifying a particular physique, that their health is not actually at the forefront of what they've done to achieve that. That's the first thing I wanted to say. I forgot my second point. I had a really good one.
It's gone. Oh no.
Oh, my second point was, and the other thing is, if you at all have a goal of looking toned, you said to yourself, I want to be toned. I really want to harp on. And a way to wrap up this episode is that is not going to happen by being in a calorie deficit year round. Being toned, anyone who has muscle on their body has spent time at maintenance or a surplus. They are fueling their body. They are doing resistance training. They are lifting heavy weights. Those are the things that are happening to achieve that. So you can't diet your way to more muscle tone. More muscle tone comes from the things you might be avoiding, which is being properly fueled and being okay with not being super, super lean year round to have long-term vision with your goal.
And toned is not even really a thing. Like that's a word that's thrown out on social media all of the time. It's like your muscles either grow or they don't. Yeah. And they start to waste away, right? Which we don't want because then we get brittle bones.
No brittle bones
and
around
then we get osteoporosis and we don't want that. But when we think about appearing leaner or more toned, like Gemma said, it's like the people that look lean that you're looking up to have probably spent the last 10 years building muscle mass in a maintenance or a calorie surplus phase to then be able to remove that layer of body fat that they have over their muscle to then show their muscle mass. Then they can probably start to maintain a leaner physique if they want to. But you're not going to get that lean toned physique if you don't go through the uncomfortable growth phase that is getting in the gym and building muscle mass. My own personal journey is, you guys know, I'm a tall bitch. I'm nearly 6 foot tall. I'm a unit. I went from being 40 kilos when I started my health and fitness journey to gaining 20 kilos. That took maybe 5 or 6 years. Getting in the gym, prioritizing protein, being in a maintenance/surplus phase, eating more food than I wanted to, but I knew that my goal was to build more muscle mass so I wasn't weak, fatigued, no energy, and frail. Let's be fucking for real. So I spent that time doing that. Then I've gone into a deficit phase and a body recomp phase. But 5-6 years of being in a surplus and a deficit and actually building some real muscle mass on my frame, not only from an aesthetic reason, but also osteoporosis, not getting injured. You know, if I want to do boxing or running or something, I don't want to be getting injured all of the time. As you start to age, you don't want to like bend over and twist your back out or pop your knee. You know what I'm saying? No knee popping.
No, not
Keep
at all.
your knees on your caps.
It also feels...
You know what I mean? Keep the kneecaps kneecapping.
100%, but it also feels good. Like all of this aside, like feeling strong and having energy
best feeling.
Is the best feeling ever. Like that's what we should be striving for, not just being thick skin lean year round.
You fucking heard it here first. And that's wrapping up the episode. Kneecapping, dick skinning, all of it happening. All right, girlies, we love you so much. If you're over on Spotify, don't forget to rate this podcast 5 stars. If you're on our YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And we will see you next week for our last round of the nutrition series. We love you. Bye.